Using satellite imagery like Google Earth can be a really useful tool for winter moose hunting. It can help to give you a good idea about the areas you'll be hunting and can be especially useful in the winter. It's great when you're working an animal or when you find fresh tracks, and having a good understanding of the area is a major advantage when you're hunting in late season for moose. This is a great little winter moose area here. Just kind of a perfect area that you can work by yourself or with a group of hunters. So ideally, if you had a group of guys, you could have somebody come in this road in here, and if you're just looking for tracks, you could take a skidoo, but this is a nice small area, so you could even do it on foot. You could even send a couple hunters in here. One hunter could come along the cut through here, then end up going down through here, cut through this little path down to this road. Another hunter could carry on to the very end of here. And you're going to slowly just pick your way through here, and there's good odds you'll see something as you're going through, but you might cut tracks. And the idea of an area like this is, as a hunter's coming along here, maybe you'll cut tracks going into this patch of bush. Then you have a hunter going around this side of it, and you'll have a hunter going in here. You've essentially surrounded this piece of bush. So if you have fresh tracks going in here, especially if you're lucky enough to have fresh snow, you can have a pretty good idea if that animal is still in there. You walk this patch of bush. If the animal's still inside, then you can come up with a plan if you're going to try and push it out of there or send a hunter in on the tracks. And that's a good spot where you could send a hunter in on tracks in here and post guys around. So either the guy going in on the tracks might get an opportunity to see that animal in this patch of bush, or it'll end up pushing it out to one of these hunters. So again, this is another really interesting kind of typical winter moose area. So this cut in here, you've got lots of little patches of timber. Even back in here, these scattered pieces of bush with cut around behind, cut around all the sides. Really neat looking spots. So you've got lots of good browse in here. Not a super old cut, you can still see, but moose have cover along the back of the cut, along the water here, and good access to it. So this is somewhere you could have hunters come in the main road, do this loop in here. You might end up finding there's an animal in here or lots of activity around there. But you can have hunters still hunt, just pick their way through these little roads, see if you cut tracks. If you do, you might end up finding an animal in one of these really small patches of timber. And if you do, you got some pretty good odds. You can also come in, walk these back edges of this, do a bit of off-roading in here, but you might walk this, walk the whole edge in here. You might come upon a moose feeding, bedded back in this stuff, or at least find good sign. This area, if you do, say you have a moose going off into here, or into this green space back in here by the water, you've got other roads you can access. So you could send a hunter around, come in this back road. Maybe the animal's out in this cut, maybe it's still in this patch of timber. You can end up putting somebody in the tracks if you can get across the water. Maybe push the animal out, maybe catch up to it, but at least it's an area you can get around. You can get on all sides, these little patches of bush. Having copies of these satellite images on hand are always useful. And I find I reference them almost every trip out. They're really good when you're planning strategies with your group, if you're working a specific animal, and just to have on hand to check while you're out hunting gives you a good idea of what's around you and where animals might be. It's easy to do. You just capture screenshots of these areas and print them off, and bring them along for you and the rest of your group when you're out hunting in the late season. They can be a real help.